Hi everyone. So as a part of API testing in Postman series, so today we'll see about the skip test. Okay, so in Postman we all know we can write some test script in the test tab where you can validate your JSON response as well as the status code, and there are so many things that we can write some test and we can validate the response, right? So there could be some case like so I have like written 10 test cases out of 10, four I want to skip for this particular case, right? So again, I want to skip for a two, three test cases for particular case. Okay. So when it's come to the skipping, right? So you cannot, so for example, the scenario one, these are the 10 cases, 10 test cases are applicable, right? So when you run the scenario two for the same endpoint, so you may get, only two test cases for that one or three test cases, right? So based on the scenario, the test may be, can be extended. You can reduce the test also, right? So how do we manage these kind of steps in the Postman? So simply we are writing test. If the test is not applicable for the particular request that we are making, so we can simply skip the test cases, right? So instead of deleting or commenting out to the Postman, you can write some logic to skip the particular test for the particular scenario. Okay. So what we can do now, so this is a normal syntax which we'll use for, to write some Postman test in the test tab, right? So this is for the syntax to skip your test case for the particular scenario. Okay. So to be very clear, this is, skipping the test for the particular scenario or ignoring the test for particular scenario. So let's get into the examples. Okay, so this is one endpoint. So this is, some dummy endpoint which I have taken from this reqrs.in website. So when we make this request, so we are getting some response, right? So we have to validate this response. So we what usually we do, we will come to this test tab and we'll start typing the test cases, right? So pm.test. So what is this pm.test? The pm stand for Postman, and we are writing one test method here. Okay, so by default, Postman support the JavaScript language code. You have to write some JavaScript code here because the Postman supports only the JavaScript language. Okay, so when it's come to the assertion part, so you can use the JavaScript library for assertion, which by default again the Postman is integrated with the chai assertions. Okay, so chai is a library Postman is using for the assertions. Okay, so now we have to write some. We have to write some test, right? So for example, what kind of test we can return? So we have to check this status code is coming as a 200 or not, right? So this is a very first case test case or very basic test case that we have to write for all the test method. Okay, so if this is a get method, so we are getting 200. If it is a post method, right? So we'll be getting 201. So we that is the first thing that we have to write a basic test to validate the status. Okay. So simply I will create a pm.test and this name you can give anything. Okay, like a checking status code. Okay. So this is up to you. You can write anything. So after that we have to start the function. Okay. So this is a syntax for writing one test in Postman. Okay. So Postman we have pm.test. PM stand for Postman. This is any kind of test case name or anything you can give it here. So after this, what we have to check? We have to check this status code is coming 200 or not, right? So pm dot response dot to have. This syntax. You can get it from the snippet as well. Okay, so when you click on this arrow button, so here you can see the snippet, right? You can get it some code from here also. So if you want to write your own code, or if you want to customize, these are some basic things like a get a variable, set a variable, and the status code, the JSON string contains. So anyhow, I will be covering this in my one another video for how to write the Postman test. Okay. So here what we are writing, so we are expecting the 200 as a status code. Okay. So I will go to test tab here. So here you can see there is nothing, right? So when I execute this one, you can see this one, the test, right? Checking status code is printed here, right? So it is coming as a pass. Okay, so for this scenario, it's pass. I have to apply the same case for the post method as well. So for post, we will be getting 201, right? So how do we control this one? So if obviously if I make it as a post, right? So when I make this call, obviously the test case will fail. Okay, so we are getting as a 201, but we are expecting as a 200, right? So that's the reason it is, getting failed. So, it's very simple code. So, to validate our status code, right? So, this is applicable for all the tests that we write, because the status code validation is just a primary one for the all API testing on which we do in the Postman or any other tool also, right? So the status code is a primary skill. Primary test. Validations. Okay, so now how do we control this one? So, okay, for this is a post method, you can simply write. Okay, so here we put the skip. Okay, so earlier it was like a pm.test. Now I have added the skip. Okay, so the skip will skip this test case for this particular method. Okay, so when I make this request, now you can see it is coming as a skip, right? So the test is not executed. It is ignored for this particular method. Okay, so when I remove this skip, it was executing. It was validating the status code because we have written as a pm.test, right? So this is a way we can skip this one. But again, so all the time we cannot come here and we cannot, we cannot write this skip keyword here, right? So we have to control this as a through programmatically. Okay, so how do we control this one? Like for example, if I running this, let us assume this is a one environment or something like that. Okay, so let us assume I have some variable. Okay, so you can create some variable called env. So you can use let, where, constant, anything you can use. So that's a variable declarations in Java. Okay, data types like integer string we have, right? So similarly in JavaScript we have a let, where, and constant. So you can use anything. Um, I will quickly create one global variable. Okay, so global variable I will give us a name as a env. Okay, so environment basically. So I will update as a QA and current value also QA. Okay, so now I want to read this environment variable. Based on the environment variable, so if it is I'm running on test on my QA environment, I have to execute one. I have to execute this test. If I'm running on the UAT environment, I don't want to execute this one. Okay, so such a way we can control. So pm.global.get. Okay, so I'm getting the environment variable from the global. A global variable, right? So this is the environment name that I have given env. So what I'm trying to, do here, I'm trying to read this value from the global variable, okay, and I'm checking this is equal to QA, right? So here we have a QA value. If it is equal to QA, what I can do, I can put some ternary operator here, okay. So env, if it is env equal to pm dot test dot skip, otherwise you can execute this one. Okay, so what statement we have made? So if it is environment is QA, then please skip the test case. If it is anything other than QA, it will execute. Okay, so since we have defined as a QA, for this case, this test case will not execute. Okay, it will be in the script under the script category. Now we can see. Okay, so I made some mistake here. 1 second. There are test script. Okay. Okay, so here I forgot to put the semicolon. Okay, so when I make this request, what happens? So it will read the environment variable from this variable from the global variable. Okay, so the global variable value we have is a QA, right? So if it is a QA, it will ignore the test. It will skip the test. If it is anything other than QA, it will execute. Okay, so now I will make the request. Okay, once again. So what is the variable name that we have here? env pm.test. Okay, so here we have to close this bracket. Yeah. Okay, I will make the request now. So you can see this is coming as a script, right? So because this is, ternary operated, we have used instead of, you can use the if condition or switch condition also we can use. We can write some code. So this is simple one, like by using this ternary operator. So we have validated this one. Okay, so now since we are passing as a QA, so this is, getting skipped, right? So if at all we have changed something else, like I am passing as a dev, right? So if it is a dev, I want to execute the test case. That's what the logic that we have written here. Okay, when I make this request, this time it will get pass. Okay, so even if I make it to this post, I mean, the test will execute, but we'll get as a failure one because we have written as a 200, right? So, but this suppose only 201. I mean, since we have made as a post method always return the 201. Okay, so similarly, you can validate some other things also. So I will make it as a get method. Okay, so these things also we can validate. We can validate. So we have to read this complete JSON and we have to validate. So for example, here I will do this validation. I mean, so for the writing test, I will be creating one more video in the Postman, I mean series. But for to on high level, like if I want to validate this ID is coming out 2 or not, because in my path variable I am passing as a 2, right? So if I change it as a 1, then I will be getting an ID value as a 1, right? So you can change it. Okay, so this is a basically users API where there could be n number of users. So I'm giving as a path variable like now 10, right? So I could see the only ID as a 10. If I see anything else that I coming as a ID, that is not a valid case, right? So that is a bug actually. So whatever the path variable we are using it here, so we are going to the user bucket and we are retrieving the user ID 10, right? So that is what we are doing it here. So this is a path variable which we already covered as a part of previous videos. So now if I want to check this one, right? So I want to check this ID is coming as a 10 or not. So what we have to do, we have to read this response completely. So we can create one variable uh, response. I will give it as a res. Okay. So after this, what we have to do, pm dot response dot JSON. Okay. So when we make this one, so what this will done, it will read the complete response from the Postman. Okay. So pm stand for Postman response JSON. Okay. It will complete read this response and it will store in the variable called res. Okay. So after this, so if you have doubt, you can console it if you want. If you pass this res value into the console. Okay. So I will open the console window in separate window actually. So I have opened this console in separate window. Let this get loaded. So since we have consoled this everything, right? So you can see all the response will be printed in the console. Okay, so now again I will make this request. Okay, I will go to console. So here you can see. So these are the response that we are getting, right? So now you can compare this one. Okay, start from the data support, this is one JSON object, this is one JSON object. So both objects are, the complete JSON is coming in printed in the console. Okay. So now we want to validate this ID is coming as a 10 or not, because we are passing as a path variable as a 10, right? So we supposed to get only ID as a 10. If we are getting something else, that is a bug, right? So now we can write some text. So pm.expect, right? So this is a assertion library that's come from the child. Okay, chai node based library. So they are using the Postman is using the chai library for doing the assertion. Okay, so pm.expect. So this is where my response, entire response is stored, right? So I have to navigate to this ID, right? So response dot data dot ID, right? So this is a one which I have to validate. Okay, so this is equal to be, okay. We can put to equal. So what is the value that we are expecting as a 10, right? So we can put the semicolon here. Now we can validate this one. So we'll go to the test method now. Now you can see this is getting passed. Again, we have written the same, this assertion into under again same test method, right? So if you want to put it in the separate test method also possible. Okay, so pm.test. So here like validating response. Okay, so again you have to put the function here. Okay, I will cut these 2 lines, 3 lines, and I will give it to this test method. Okay, so this particular, the first test is written for the validating the status code. So this one is, we are validating the response, this ID, right? So when I execute now you can see the 2 test cases will come in the test tab. Okay, so here you can see this is for checking the status code and this is validating the response code. So which means we are getting the ID equal to 10. Okay, if I change it to 11, right? So we'll go to the test tab again. I will make the request now. Now you can see this is getting failure. And the expected was, whatever we got is a 10, but we are expecting equal to 11. Okay. So it will give you the clear, assertion error. Okay. So, anyhow, I will be covering this, how to write the test effectively in another video. So for this one, what we have seen is, this is a way that we can skip the test, right? So I will delete this one. So this is a way we can test it. We can skip the test accordingly. So you can set some variable like a key value. Okay, so if it is a keyword, then you execute these kind of test cases. If it is anything other than keyword, please skip it. Okay, so that is what we are doing it here. Okay, so when you come here, like so again, I will show you. So if I make it to environment to keyword, it will be skipped now, right? You can see this is skipped. Okay, so this is how we can write some test. So if you don't want to run that particular test in particular scenario, you can simply put a skip. You can add this syntax. So this is a syntax for putting the skip. Otherwise, you can control by using this some setting some variable from the variable output. Input. You can plan accordingly. You can skip or you can want to execute or enable. You can do it. Okay, so that's all about this video. How to skip the test in Postman and ignoring the test. Okay, so if you guys have any doubt or any comment, please feel free to update in the comment section. Thank you, guys.